God of War for the PC is here. Gamers get to finally experience the joy of smashing in skulls with Mr. Clean and his lovable baby boy. And after another year of being a gamer and another year console ports coming to the PC, this is like a second Christmas. Steam sales be damn. Period. In this vid, we'll answer the question of why this God of War port is one of the few good ports out there. What are even ports, and why are companies failing so hard at making them for PC? So stick around for our tour with Mr. Clean as he smashes everything on his path for global dominance.
Worldwide.
In one corner we have the undefeated champion of pain, Kratos. And in the other corner we have Gata. Only one will win here tonight, folks. Whoa, hold up. You can't play like that, sir. You can't fight like that.
This is just me, man. This is just me. It's just who I am, man.
Die.
Ah!
God damn it, not again.
So what are ports? A video game port is when developers move a game from one system, like an Xbox or a PlayStation, over to another system that was not previously supported, like a PC. And if you're around the web and you consume like video game media, you often see the headlines of such and such game is finally coming to PC, or such and such game is finally getting a remaster. But the intent is always the same: to spread this piece of art, to spread this media to a new audience. And that, my friends, is to make one thing and one thing only: cash, baby. Which is why you're finally hearing about more ports and more ports and more ports and more ports. Oh my god, I'm so sick of saying this word. Port. So why are you hearing about ports so much? If I'm a company, say Take-Two, which just published Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy Definitive Edition on multiple platforms, which, oh my god, hate that title. So of course I want to tap into a fandom and make oodles of money. Because of this baseline fandom, this baseline audience, it can be a little risk, high reward to make a lot of money off of republishing these games. Fans could easily love the return of something, hail it as amazing, and then spend tons of money just consuming content about said thing. And all of this can start just when a video game gets announced. But something worse can even happen: the fans hating it into the seven hells. Get out of here, GTA. And that storm can really tarnish or even end a franchise, or even sink a company's reputation. But really, the money keeps flowing regardless. We love it. We love to see it. But this pursuit for money can lead these companies to not making the best business decisions. They can encounter 1,000,000,001 issues. And when you combine bad business practices, greed, and a flock of gamers willing to just toss whatever money they have out the window for anything that moves, then honey, we got tons and tons of ports. And they're not good. They're not good, no. But as entertainment, as media, video games push so many units. But because this new industry is at the forefront of tech and culture, you have all of these executives just ready to make tons of money.
And these executives who come from other industries often encourage growth over making a quality product.
Game executives love looking at the immediate ROI. Why invest more resources like time and money over a long period of time versus doing a short-term gain of just making a quick buck, releasing a shitty game, and just hoping that the GP forgets about it in a couple months? And we cannot discredit the amount of crunch work that is prevalent in these game companies because of these short-term pursuits. Or the copious amount of sexual misconduct abuses, like damn. Which, if you are more interested in learning about, I have this great video where I dive into why Activision Blizzard's CEO sucks. You'll get a kick out of it. But all this crunch work and abuse leads to a more toxic and unproductive workplace, which then leads to a nasty cycle of poor decisions and strategies, which then turns into a high turnover, which then turns into more issues of abuse and crunch work, which turns into rinse and repeat. And it's all for profit, baby. Tommy, you're gonna be a star. So competent business decisions need to be made very early in a game's development, or even in an engine development, even earlier, to help combat some of these tech issues that go with porting an older game to the PC. So what are some of the tech issues that ports face, and why is Kratos just smacking them all around? So when older games become ports, like that earlier example of a PlayStation game being ported to the PC at a later date, it comes with a lot of reconfiguring. A console will not be optimized for the PC if this console game originally came out only for the console. And this is especially so for consoles and games that came out more than a decade ago. These games are built for a small computer that is also built just to play these specific games, not to run tons of other applications or do a myriad of other things that a PC generally does. So you have console games that rely on a console architecture so that everything can play nicely and seamlessly for a very casual living room audience. Games map their controls and their gameplay loops to a specific controller, and that controller can be unique to that specific console. That can end up becoming quite an issue for porting a game to the PC with mouse and keyboard. Or it requires developers to format their controls onto an Xbox controller because that is the dominant way most players play PC games, well, with the controller. And with the PC market, there's probably millions, if not billions, of different configurations of hardware that can go on. And there's so many more different parts from so many different manufacturers. There are so many variables. And it's a much different ballpark than saying Microsoft controlling what's going into their Xbox. So you can have a huge variety of quality when it comes to different PC specs. But because of these variables, it can be hard for developers and publishers to commit to a PC format when they're already committing to a couple other formats when they develop a game. It just costs more resources, time, money, marketing. It all needs to be shifted, it all needs to work together, and introducing another format like PC from the get-go can still introduce tons of issues. There's going to be some level of headache, and there's also going to be some level of risk. And if a company wants to port an older game to the PC or to a newer platform, they have to go back and look at that code base that they created, which oftentimes is not going to play well with current specs. So on one hand, you have the GTA Trilogy, which includes games that came out from 2001 to 2004, and then on the other hand, you have this God of War port from a game that came out in 2018 for the PlayStation 4. So let's talk about why everyone's betting on and throwing their money at God of War, and why this port is so much better than the GTA fest that got released a couple months ago. Don't get me wrong, like I just said, a 2018 game is much different than a game from 2002, but let me just say this, Sony knows their target audience and they know their new PC audience, and they're starting to know their audience a little bit better after their experiences with Horizon, with Days Gone. The team at Santa Monica Studios, which developed this God of War game and which developed the port, looked at other PlayStation 4 games and analyzed what those players needed, but the Santa Monica team knew the challenges it would cause to try to retrofit Kratos onto the PC platform and to create this beautiful, seamless experience for both developers and players. This process of looking at assets and looking at the code base in order to port has to come at the very beginning, which takes me exactly to why Kratos beat the out of GTA. GTA's port is a nightmare and it could have been handled so much better. When Take-Two released Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy Definitive Edition in 2021, it was one thing and one thing only, a cash grab. Unlike Sony with Santa Monica Studios, Take-Two and Rockstar decided to outsource the development of the port of all three games. Which, I mean, like, come on, isn't that obviously a bad decision? When this port got released, it was a hot mess. There were so many technical issues, there were so many graphical glitches, so many bugs, character models just looked like I mean, look at my thumbnail. It was a mess, and it will continue to be a mess. So Kratos and God of War won. They won this battle. Mr. Clean, you knocked out GTA. She knocked her out. Congrats. And now Kratos is sitting well. He's cheesing. He has all this cash money. There's thousands of players logging in every day to play God of War on Steam right now. Meanwhile, that GTA Trilogy got review bombed on Steam because of its technical and graphical issues.
But it still made tons of money. Yay!
Like, how many people actually refunded this GTA Trilogy? Not many, let's be real. And this isn't the end of this port conversation either. You can join in as well by hitting that like and subscribe button. Gotcha, girl. Ha. And since I talk about video games within pop culture, you'll probably like some of my other content too. So as long as companies get away with shoveling these half-baked ports and consumers keep buying these half-baked ports, we're gonna keep coming into this. Ports are gonna keep on happening. And developers cannot piss themselves off and not piss off consumers by just keeping an archive of their assets. So even if they want to return to a game at a later date, they don't have all of this headache and all of these issues. Don't get me wrong, I can't like completely on Rockstar. We can slide on them for a little bit, but ooh, if this God of War port was a mess, it all hell would have broken loose, I swear. But since its release, this God of War port has been nothing short of a graphical achievement, nothing short of an optimizational achievement for PC players. And it can prove that if developers give the actual attention and care needed to their intellectual properties, you can re-release something to a lot of success and a lot of monetary gain. Oh, and you can also beat up GTA's reputation a little bit more. So in conclusion, be on the lookout for more ports. They're on their way. Remasters, recuts, re-releases, redos, they're all coming. Some will be awful, some will be amazing. Most will probably just be okay. So go forth, go to Steam, because the Epic Store, and buy God of War at full price. That's me manifesting poor decisions. But no, the game is so good. Check it out and don't forget to sound off in the comments, and I'll see y'all in a couple of days, okay?
Bye, y'all, bye.